Hello, Ricardo.
Hello, hello. How are you?
I'm great. Well, it's a pleasure to talk with one of the best tango DJs I've ever heard.
Oh my
And
God, you've been too.
so yeah, it's great to interview you, to have the chance to interview you. And I
Thank you.
want to hear a little bit more about your tango background today and some of your opinions. But first, please let me know, um, like for people who don't know you, give me a short introduction of who you are.
Sure. Well, I'm Ricardo. I am originally Portuguese. I was born and raised in Portugal, but came to the UK for my sort of university, and I've been in the UK ever since. Um, in real life, that life that we have on a daily basis, I am an eye surgeon, and but I've been doing tango for the last 18 years, actually almost 19 years, and DJing for a great part of it. And yeah, I mean,
Well, that's a nice, what's the word, like a CV or something. That's a
yeah,
nice, yeah,
indeed.
yes, yes. Um, so can you tell me, how did you originally come in contact with tango?
Yeah, so I'm not one of these people that knew a lot about tango. I'm very honest with it. I knew about Piazzolla. I knew about Carlos Gardel, and I knew about Gotan Tango. That was it. I didn't know anything else. And actually, I came to tango on, it was my birthday that I'd gone out the day before and I had far too much to drink. So I was really, really hungover. And we went to this Fiesta Latina in Edinburgh where I was studying then. I was really, really like not fit to be there. And there was one guy that saw me and he saw that he thought that I wasn't appreciating the sort of the party. So he came and said, "Oh man, don't you like Latin dancers?" Like, well, I do, but it's just like I'm not in a good mood today. And it's like, well, have you ever tried tango? There's a, a free introductory lesson to tango. It's like for absolute beginners. And I was like, all right. So I spoke to a friend of mine that was there in the party, and we went next day, and I did this sort of absolute beginners lesson in tango, and I sort of felt that this was it. During my life, I'd done lots of activities. I was a competition swimmer. I did football, handball. I did karate. Like sort of never quite doing something that fully I was in it, and uh, with tango, that first lesson, I was just like, this is what I've been looking for. And yeah, and that's how I got into tango. And as I said before going into tango, all that I knew was, I knew from name and from some of the tracks, Piazzolla and Gardel, but what I most listened to was Gotten Tango and a CD from a then unknown group um, called Bajo Fondo. Um, and that's what I knew. So, Nuevo brought me to tango, but it was when I got to the milongas and listened to this beautiful music, traditional music. So it was the traditional that kept me in tango.
Okay, okay. And I think I'm already surprised in the sense that you knew about Carlos Gardel, but maybe there's something in also from Portuguese culture, or I don't know, that you're maybe a bit more aware of those things.
Yeah, I just read a book about Carlos Gardel, and I basically knew about it, but I, like I heard some of the tracks, but I definitely wasn't a connoisseur.
But then in a
Let's just
sense,
say,
sorry, yeah.
let's just say that I did not know any of the orchestras that I currently play, and all the orchestras that I knew then, I don't play them.
Yeah, that's you're probably not the only one with that. Um, but how I'm struggling a bit to find like the real origin of this, because you're saying that you went to this well, you were kind of invited for a dance class and that's how it started, but you already
Yeah,
knew some things.
completely.
Sorry, you got hooked.
I got hooked. I saw once on the World Exhibition in Lisbon, 1998. I saw once, I don't know, the World Exhibition is like you've got pavilions for every country, and you have to queue to go into this pavilion. They'll tell you all about the country. And I remember I was waiting with my mum in one of the pavilions, and I was outside, and suddenly the Argentinian sort of troupe went and did a tango performance right there, like in the middle. And I always thought, wow, this must be something that it's like ballet, you have to be a professional to do it. I actually never thought that you could actually just learn it, on real life. I thought, and it was actually when this guy told me, do you want to go to Argentinian tango class? It was the first time that I actually thought, oh, maybe I can learn it, or maybe I can't. But it turns out, and after the end of this first class, it turns out I said, you know what, this is what I'm looking for. This is what I want.
Yeah, I'll ask you again about that, but just to repeat, like, or maybe rephrase it, like, is that world exhibition moment, is that like the first moment you saw tango or you saw something with Argentina? Because that's just
Yeah,
really interesting to me.
the first moment that I probably saw tango out live, yeah. And probably I thought it was traditional tango, but it's probably like exhibition tango, like you don't really know. It's when I tell people they're not outside tango, that I dance tango, they always think that I dance with a rose in my mouth, sort of the stereotypes. But yeah, I mean, I was really smitten. Yeah.
But that's the first moment that you
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
there wasn't anything before that, like seeing something on TV casually, or
Yeah, sort of
hard
maybe.
to remember.
I had seen tango, yes, but I can't remember anything that caught my attention as that.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. But that's already a lot of tango history compared to a lot of people that you knew about Gardel, and you knew about this electronic tango stuff, Gotham Project. So you saw this exhibition. So
Yeah.
these may be the foundations of what you were going to experience later. So can you tell me how did, like, what was the exact feeling of, like, this is what I've been looking for? What was the sign?
Like just like my, I realized in many of the activities that I was doing that when I was doing it, I wasn't 100%. My body didn't feel 100% well. I remember when I was doing some karate that sometimes I was doing, and I was making like faces with my face that I was like, oh, why am I doing it? Like, and with tango, it was just like sort of, yeah, just my body just felt this is it, and that was it.
Okay.
And I think also what, because you invited me here as a DJ, I think it was also the richness of the music that I found on that class. And the guy was only playing Darienza, right? Which is, when you go into tango, is not sort of the richest of sounds, but it was just like so much more compared to what I heard before from, like Gotham Project, which is, it's a specific type of tango made in Europe, really. And yeah, I mean, I just I got hooked to it, and when I went to the milonga, I stayed for the milonga on that same introductory lesson. I was just amazed to see the sort of different people, different shapes, different backgrounds, dancing, and all that music. It was just like I went home, I couldn't sleep.
Okay.
Could sleep. I was so excited.
Was that your first dancing experience as well?
Well, I almost didn't dance. It was just sort of, you know, I had my first class, and then people were just dancing, and I just admired, really.
Okay. So it took you a bit of an effort to become a dancer in that sense, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I know people that have been learning tango for years and never been to a milonga because they want to be very good at milonga. I actually had my first dance after my first class, just at the beginning of Milonga when there weren't that many people. I didn't realize there was going to be so many people. But when I saw so many people coming afterwards and the dance floor being so busy, I was just like, no, I'm just going to observe. I'm just going to see what's happening. So yeah, I was in a way thrown on the deep end, really.
Yes. Yeah, that's nice. I guess that's the advantage of being so immediately passionate about something.
Yeah, that was it. Yeah, I think that was, yeah, yeah.
Do you think those prior activities kind of also prepared you for this, or didn't like?
Not really,
Okay, they had
no. I
nothing to
think
do with.
what helped me to with it in a way was that when I went to primary school, I actually went to a music school. So we had when I was primary, and so my first 6 years of schooling, I was in a music school. And I also come from a family, my dad's side, where there's lots of music teachers, and my grandfather used to have a music shop. So music has always been quite quite a part of my life. Um, it was just that music sort of clicked clicked with me, really. Yeah. And that takes us into sort of the interest that I developed in music and how I developed my interest as well in DJing.
Yes. Um, so we'll hear more about that later. I just want to ask, or maybe say it's more like a statement. Like I think there's a lot of people, at least here in Holland, who started dancing and they didn't like the music and they preferred modern music, and then eventually they came to like the music much more than they thought they ever would. But in your case, you immediately like the music, like
Yeah,
me
I immediately
actually.
like the music. It doesn't mean that I stopped liking the sort of the music that I was listening before. You know the sort of at the time what seemed to be to me like an evolution of tango. The sort of the, the electronic tango. Um, but yes, no, I definitely had a immediate connection with the music. Maybe because actually tango, and in a way, the way how people live life in Argentina is not that different from what people do in Portugal. Tango tends to be a melancholic blues folk song, and if you go to Portugal, if you think about fado, it's the same thing. You even used to dance fado until 60 or 80 years ago, when things started to change. And we'll not go into it because then we're not talking about tango. But so in a way, it was quite familiar to me.
Yes, maybe even on also like on a spiritual level
Yeah,
even.
yeah, definitely.
So how did you actually go about learning to dance tango? So you started, and then like what
Yeah,
happened?
and then I just went to all lessons that I could go, really, and practicas. I was hooked. I was going to lessons and practicas 4 or 5 times a day, for 4 or 5 times a week in Edinburgh, and yeah, just sort of I was really hooked.
So that you listen to a lot of music immediately.
Well, this is the thing. People right now that might be listening to this podcast that started tango relatively recently may not believe this, but this will strike a chord in many of the people who started tango at my time or even before me. And I know that a lot of people that I interviewed started tango before me. Is that tango music wasn't easy to find in the early 2000s. There was no tango tunes. There was no tango through times. There was no tango, MP3 or M4A or AIFF versions of tango in the internet. In fact, there was almost nothing about tango in the internet. YouTube had only started. There was a couple of tango videos on YouTube. There was, uh, it was really difficult to find uh, tango CDs in music shops because they'll they'll have these sort of mixed tangos CDs that someone put up. So at that time, it was really difficult. It's not like now where at the distance of a couple of clicks, you can have all the D'Arienzo, all the Troilo, all the Pugliese discography in your laptop, um, correctly labeled with lots of details, where you can go to a website and read a lot, where you can actually buy books. For example, the the, the amazing collection that Michael Lavaca is doing and learn all about that. There was nothing. There was absolutely nothing. So how I got interested was that in Edinburgh, with the Edinburgh Tango Society, they had a library. So basically, they had CDs which they rented out for almost no money, and that's how I started to know tango. I would always hire a couple of CDs every week or every 2 weeks, and that's how I got to know the orchestras. And I was one of these annoying kids that went to the DJ and asked quite a lot of questions, really. And now I know better that I shouldn't do that. But I was always very curious, and very soon and very quickly I started to develop a good understanding of what tango was. And yeah, I also started to understand that the main DJ in at the time in Edinburgh, which is a guy that I really like him, Toby, that he probably didn't play music as I wanted or as I felt it was better. And this is where it led to me becoming a DJ, or me attempting to put some music on, which is what I was doing in the beginning. So me and a couple of colleagues of mine and friends, including my present wife, Sue, decided to start a new milonga called La Otra Milonga. And funnily enough, the Edinburgh Tango Society, this was the sort of competition milonga, but they decided to support us, and that's how we went. So we rented another place. I took lots of CDs that I had. I started DJing with CDs. I wasn't aware that we could put them into MP3s, and well, I was aware, but I was DJing with CDs, and that's how we did it. And you know what? I will not show anyone my playlists from the first playlist that I did, because they were really awful. But yeah, this is how you do. This is how you did. And at that time, there was about just over a year after I started dancing, which is, now I wouldn't do that. But at the time, it was just everyone was discovering what tango music was and what tango DJing was. It is not like now.
No.
Really.
Yes. So how much time did it take you from the beginning to starting to DJ?
Oh, just I actually can't remember exactly the time. It's over a year and a half, I'd say. Almost 2 years. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a bit like me, actually. The same. Yeah, it's funny if you're so interested in the music from the start. Yeah, you also get kind of a head start at developing yourself.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing is, like, in the beginning, I didn't know. In fact, no, not many people knew, and I certainly didn't know what cortinas and tandas were, because music wasn't played like that in the UK. Music usually was played in sort of, or at least in Edinburgh and in Glasgow and in Newcastle, which is when I'd gone. It was all like sort of, just never ending. Well, just like, tango is always playing. There's no cortinas. There may be a couple of silences, a little bit like Nijmegen at the time as well. I'm not sure. I haven't been to Nijmegen in a while, but I'm not sure if they do cortinas, because they didn't used to.
No, they still don't.
Yeah. And yeah, there was this difficulty with learning how to be a DJ, because there was nothing in the internet. Now you've got 2,000 experts that will tell you what to do. At the time that I was there, there was only the Yahoo Tango group, which, if you know what the Yahoo Tango group is, you've been in tango for quite a while, because that was the only thing. It was basically one of these discussion groups in which, people would ask questions, and then there would be like quite a lot of replies, and people start to, it was pre-Facebook trolling, really. Yeah. So yeah, and I said difficulty in getting music as well. So getting music was, you had three ways of getting music. Okay, the first one is if you go into a shop and buy these, these tango collections that have, two 2 tracks from D'Arienzo, 2 tracks from Di Sarli, 2 tracks from whatever. There was the other one that was much more expensive. Namely, I used Michael Lavaca's shop when he had one. This has been disbanded. The Cuesta, his shop, I can't remember, Costa Riva Tango Club, I think it was, and Danza in Movimiento, which was a shop that still exists in Germany. But you know, you're paying like 20, 22, 23 euro, sometimes, you know, per CD 20 years ago. 20 years ago was much more than it is now. Yeah. Or you could buy your, you know, order some CDs from Buenos Aires and be completely at the mercy of what they wanted to bring. Because I remember once I bought some, I requested some D'Arienzo Maure CDs, and after 4 months of writing incessant emails and, you know, telling them that I would sue them and stuff because they weren't sending me anything, they sent me a CD of D'Arienzo with Bustos, which was not what I wanted. So that was the sort of way how you could get music at that time. There was nothing of you know, downloading in a high quality file and you know, having it instantly.
So that made you struggle a bit with.
It was a struggle. Yeah, it was. It wasn't easy.
So does that also explain why you played in a certain way that you wouldn't want to share with people now? Just a playlist.
I think that was just because, you know, it was the blind leading the blind, really. And
Yeah.
you want to learn from mistakes, really. And this is basically what life is, isn't it? But certainly my tango life was learning from mistakes, and learning also from seeing other people, and from sharing knowledge with other people and acquiring knowledge from other people. Yeah.
So that's how you gradually came to have a more coherent DJ style or something.
Yeah, definitely. I think one of the things about my DJing style comes from you know, 2 people. My first tango teacher, Ricardo, who was sort of, he still teaches in Edinburgh, and he was the first person that told me that the DJ needs to leave the ego at the door. Okay, you're not playing for yourself, you're playing for the dancers. That was probably the best lesson that I've ever had. And then a few years afterwards, actually, I came across Damian Borgio, who became a very good friend of mine. Even when I went to Buenos Aires, I hung up with him quite a lot and went to visit him in Italy, came to visit us in the UK. And I think what he gave me was a structure. I don't DJ. My DJing style is not like his, but he gave me a structure. He gave me a structure of how to structure a tanda, how to, you know, what's the importance of the first tango in a tanda. Yes, the first tango needs to attract, needs to signpost what the rest of the tanda is going to be. Don't put a first tango that is going to be completely different from the rest. He taught me about the importance of the last tango, you know. Usually when you see a film and the ending is really bad, you're more likely to not like the film, that film that has been bad all the way and ends up in a really nice way. So the first impressions count, but the last impressions count as well. So it was the one that taught me that the first and the last tangos need to be like really, really good. And also he was the first one to tell me that you should tell a story in a milonga. You're when you're putting a tanda now, you have to think of, you know, maybe 3 or 4 tandas ahead what you want to do, but you also need to keep your eye on the dance floor and adjust that to what the dancers want, because as a DJ you're there to play not for yourself.
Yes, so those things were not commonplace or like common knowledge back then among other DJs. You mean that you don't think they are right now?
Commonplace. A lot of people do it, but not everyone does it.
Yes. But even nowadays, you mean?
Yeah, certainly.
Yes, I'd agree with that. But especially back then, it probably was worse.
Yeah, I mean, back then it was mainly Argentinian people that, at least in the UK, many Argentinian people, that teachers that would come and DJ, and then you started getting the sort of the people that learned tango, were good with tango, fell in love with the music, and started the DJing, and I'm in that group. Yeah.
Okay, okay. So you had your own milonga in the beginning, or something
So yeah, so we did that milonga.
resembling that?
That was a sort of a more sort of rebel milonga. I left Edinburgh, and then I went to a place where I went back to university, did my PhD, and I went back to university to the medical degree because I realized that was my calling really. And the university that I went was in a place that had absolutely no tango. There was no tango whatsoever. So I really started teaching tango not because I felt and I was qualified to teach, but I basically just wanted to teach someone to dance with me, really. Um, and it went really well. I did
Sorry,
it with
what place?
that was in Warwick, which is a small town in the middle of England, really right in the middle. So if you make a cross in England, you'll be right. I think the closest big city would be Birmingham. That's about 45 minutes away, half an hour, 45 minutes. There was some tango in Birmingham, but that was too far anyway for me at the time. So me and Sue, my wife, we started teaching, and we built a community, and we started doing milongas, and that's when I sort of started really developing my style, because at that time, that was 2007, 2008, you started having a little bit more a little bit more stuff in the internet written out, and that's when I met Damian as well at that time, and that's when I really started to, um, and also very important, that's when you start having more places selling tango music, including eBay and Amazon, yeah, because eBay and Amazon, eBay already existed when I started. Amazon, I don't know, yeah, very 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 sort of um, proto Amazon what it is now, but that's when you start having more access to music, and obviously when you've got more access to ingredients, you can venture yourself on becoming a better cook, isn't it? So that's the same thing with tango, yeah, yeah.
So do you think you were qualified to teach back then?
Not really, no. I basically just wanted to bring people to a level where they could find their tango, and then go and learn from someone else. And we're also always happy to bring people that taught us. So we organized workshops, we organized festivals, and basically we never made any. Our society was not for profit. All the money that we made from classes stayed in that societies, so that we could organize these festivals, um, so that we could further our knowledge as well. So it was all sort of very community based, and I think the the way how I feel that this was a success is that we we haven't been involved in that community, like teaching or even organizing, since 2013, and the community is still going. It still organizes classes every week, organizes practicas every week, it organizes a festival every year, it organizes yeah, I mean, so, and this is being maintained by some of our students that started with us. So it really tells you that it was a very good enterprise, and very valid enterprise. And actually now, if you go to the Milongas in Warwick, you will find a fairly good level of dancing for the UK, um, and you'll find a fairly good level of music as well. I think is actually that Milonga is actually one of the Milonga with the best music. And I'm not saying because I DJ there, because I only DJ there about 3 to 4 times a year due to my availability. But they're so interested in good music that they're keen on paying good money for people to come from London, for people to come from Wales, from Bristol, from you know from the north of England, Manchester, just to DJ there, just to give good music. they got used to good music, and they're prepared to to pay for good music.
Sounds like a very healthy community.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
But you're not involved in not even in
No,
organizing. Okay.
I'm no, I'm more involved in organizing. I mean, I help out every time I go there. Obviously, sort of those things that nobody likes to do, like folding the chairs and cleaning up and stuff. I DJ every time I go there. And I always have lots of fun. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Um. So I think well, maybe one more question about your history before we delve deeper into some of your opinions. Um, so how did you become like how did you get this bigger profile of a DJ going to marathons or encuentros or a dancer even without the DJing? How did you become a high level dancer, something like that?
Well, I think high level dancers were, but I'm not sure if I'm a high level dancer, but I always, I'm the worst critic of myself, both in dancing and in and DJing. And dancing and DJing are parallel in a way that I've never promoted myself. I just, whilst DJing, I just DJed the best I could, and people liked it, and they recommended, and it was sort of word of mouth, really. I've never asked to DJ anywhere. I've never sort of sent emails saying, "Oh, I'm this DJ. Can you, I'll be happy to do in your to DJ in your milonga." I've always been asked, and like the quite a few times I've been asked from people that I've never met those people. I didn't even know of their existence, and they come as like, "Oh, I heard you DJing," or someone recommended you as a DJ. Would you be able to come to here? And sometimes other countries, and it's quite it is quite a responsibility, because these people will have to pay trips, accommodation, pay for DJing, and sometimes you've never met them, you know and you kind of go, well, what are they expecting from me? You know what I mean? But that's how I did. I just I'm a firm believer that if you do your job well, people will recognize that, and they'll want you to do the job again.
Okay. 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 And that's how you became more famous, so to say, just because you never really asked for it, but you just relied on people liking what you were doing.
Yeah, I remember, when we met, when we met at Una Mirada, that was the first encuentro that I've played music. Yeah.
Okay.
And I remember that when I played music in that encuentro, I got four organizers coming to me and saying, "I want you to play in my encuentro." And that's basically sort of how, and all of them, I can tell you that all of those organizers have really, really high quality encuentros. One of them is one of my favorites. So it was a dream come true that I could sort of go and play in that encuentro after playing in my first encuentro.
And what did you play at Una Mirada once or twice? I think there were two,
There were three
three.
versions. No, I just played on the last one. Yeah.
Okay, okay. That's yeah, that's where we met indeed that time. That music was really good, even though you probably you're too humble to
No, I really,
acknowledge it, but
I
that was
really
really
enjoyed.
good, really good.
I really enjoyed that DJing there. It was a Saturday afternoon as well, which helps because, as you know, I think if you can't DJ well on a Saturday afternoon in an encuentro, you should really stop DJing. Go to farming or something like that, because it's really sort of the time where everyone, people arrive on a Friday, they're tired, they don't know, they want to dance with people that they're familiar with. um they don't take risks, and then they have this sort of nap, or they go to sleep and they wake up and they're like, this is the time I'm gonna dance. So they come on a Saturday afternoon and they're ready for it. So the DJ has got a very, very easy time on a Saturday afternoon. And yeah, no, I mean, it was sort of the stars were lined up for me, really. And the other thing was that for that Saturday afternoon, the best dancers of the event came very early. and it's important to, it's important to play for all the dancers, but you need to realize that if the best dancers are going consistently to the dance floor, then the others will follow.
Mm.
So this is something that DJing, I look who are the best dancers, and I want especially to keep those people on the floor, because if those people come to the floor, the others will come to the floor.
Yes, you have some very original perspectives on, like detailed perspectives on what to do as a DJ. And that's quite interesting because yesterday you also told me about the importance of cortinas in a way that I have never heard someone speak about.
Cortinas are really, I think, I worry more about cortinas before the set than the tango, because the tango, I know what it is. It is what it is, and I know it inside out. But the cortinas for me, and this comes from Damian as well, they're really palate cleaners. And if you ever been to like one of these restaurants where you have like, I don't know, 7 meals and you have a palate cleaner, it really needs to clean your palate. And so what I try to do with the cortina is that I try to put a cortina that most of the people in that milonga will identify with in some sort of way. So, I want the cortina to remind you of you being at the beach. I don't know, at the end of the day having a beer, because that music is sort of summer music and goes on, like, so I want you to picture something. I want you to picture, I don't know, when you were in the disco in your early 20s in 1980 or 1970 and dancing. I want to put that, I don't know, if I have to put a Bee Gees thing, is because I know that a lot of people will probably have heard Bee Gees in their sort of younger lives, because I want them to remember that. Because once they remember of an occasion, once that brings an association, the music in the cortina brings an association with something that you've done in your life, you've forgotten the last tanda. And that gives me a little bit more head start to choose what I can put on the last tanda. So, for example, cortinas that I would play in my local milonga in Warwick are going to be different from a cortina that I'll play in a European, sorry, in a encuentro in France, and these will be different from the cortinas that I will play in a marathon in Vilnius or in Riga. Yeah, it's different people attending, so I need to sort of hone those cortinas so that people sort of, they come and they react to the cortina. Yeah.
So if you play in Riga, do you actually look up information on
Oh, I do. I do.
what their music was, their popular music was in
Yeah.
the 80s
So
or something?
sometimes I would go and I would look up like artists from that town, if they're well known, and I would put like one or two cortinas about that. Yeah. I remember that there was a point in one event that um, it was a very long set, okay, and people were starting to get tired, and I just remember I put that Elvis, um, a little bit less conversation, a little bit less talking, a little bit more action. And I remember that there was a guy that said like, "Yeah, man, yeah, more action." And for me that was, yeah. So the cortina is validated then. Yeah, I'm it's communication with everyone. Yeah. So,
Yes. So let me just ask again about the encuentro. Like, so your first encuentro, una mirada.
yeah, yeah.
How was it like to play at an encuentro for the first time? Like, how did it?
I thought I was going to be nervous, but I wasn't, because it was just natural for me, really. Um, and you know, I was just putting the music, and people were reacting to it. They were dancing. They were coming to me and giving me the thumbs up, or giving me a smile when they go to the seat. And that's what you want, really. It was a nice event as well. A shame that Dawn isn't organizing anymore. There was problems with the venue, so yeah.
Yes, and that catapulted you into playing more internationally?
Yeah, I mean, it was really the sort of the the event that took me to playing internationally. Yeah, I've since played in 13 countries since then. So it's it's yeah, it was really a sort of launch pad, really.
Yes, yes. I guess it works that way. So, can you maybe tell me something about like your opinion on music on encuentros and marathons? Is it any different? What do you prefer?
Yeah, it's funny because I think that um early in Quentin and marathons, let's say like maybe 10 years ago, 9 years ago, the music was very different, I found. I went to marathons where the music was very sort of 1950s, 60s, and sort of, quite loud, loud, not loud actually in a way that it was loud, it was played loud, but loud as in, sort of that sort of D'Arienzo where all the instruments play at the same time. Um, and in Encuentros was much more sort of, 1930s, lots of 1920s and 1940s. But what I've been finding is that during the years they've been converging really, especially before COVID. COVID sort of threw a curveball to everyone and sort of shook the waters. But I found that more and more, I was starting to listen to music that I listened in marathons more often in encuentros, like, late Arienzos, like, playing, I don't know, Merceditas, whatever. Those kind of musics. And also, um, more and more, I was listening to sort of more quaint, restrained music in marathons. So I think maybe what happened was that in the beginning there was the marathons and the encuentros, and they were maybe made by people who had strong views on what the other shouldn't do, or what they did, and in the end they sort of found a happy medium, and things were coming together. And I can say that for the music, but I can also say that for the dancers. In the beginning, you'd whether had marathon or encuentro dancers. Very difficult to find one that went to both. Um, we were probably one of the couples that went to both encuentros and marathons and were happy with both. But in the end, you actually had many more people that are going to both. And also the way how they're organized. Marathons in the beginning were very much, an endurance thing. They would start at 12 noon on one day, and they would go until 8 or 7 o'clock in the morning, and people would dance that. But whereas encuentros were always 2 milongas, 2 4-hour milongas in the afternoon and in the evening. And actually what I found is that a lot of marathons had meals usually with them, whereas encuentros didn't, because they had that break in the bit in the middle where people could go out. And what I found was that marathons started having breaks. Marathons started not supplying food. The music started being a little bit more sort of less energetic. And also in encuentros the other way. Encuentros supplying food, encuentros going with milongas for longer, and the music starting to get a bit louder. And I think that probably tells you about the happy medium.
Yes, yes. So for you, it's like right now there's not such a difference anymore between going to a marathon and going to an encuentro.
I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say so. There's definitely different types of marathons, different types of encuentros. But I say that 2019, 2020, definitely they were coming together. I've not been to that many marathons since COVID. Um, um, been mostly to encuentros because that's yeah. Uh, but
Why?
it was mainly because I DJ more in encuentros, and I was asked to DJ more in encuentros, and also the encuentros that I went where I didn't DJ was encuentros where I knew the organizers, and some of them are encuentros marathon. Some of them are not even called an encuentro or a marathon; they're just called an event, and actually it probably is something in between them. So I couldn't tell you exactly about how it is now because I've not been to that many pure marathons. Maybe you know a mix of what I just told you now about me DJing in encuentros and being invited by people that I know they're organizing encuentros, but also not having that much availability with my professional life to go, you know, to marathons.
Yes.
But yeah, certainly I felt that there was like a coming together towards the end of 2019, 2020. Yeah.
So a different topic. Can you maybe talk some more about, like, in DJing, like what should people do and what should I avoid? So there's always this side, like you can listen to someone else and you can think, that's a good idea, or you can also think, that's a typical mistake. Do you have any opinions?
Well, I try to I, I I try to now I try to switch off my DJ mood when I go to a milonga when I'm not DJing. Um, and that's because, it's very easy, and I see this quite a lot when you're thinking as a DJ when you will go as a dancer and you start criticizing everything because they don't do exactly as you do. And actually, maybe sometimes you just need to listen and feel what the DJ is trying to tell you, and just try to understand it, try to go with it, rather than just criticizing every time. And honestly, it is to the point that sometimes people come, "Oh, what's this track?" And I'm like, "No, I'm not thinking about whose orchestra it is. I'm just dancing it." I remember when I was dancing in Encuentro, and in the middle of a tanda, the person that was behind me was like, "Who's this orchestra?" I was like, "I don't know." And I was thinking about it, and I was just like, "Oh no, no, actually, yeah, this is D'Arienzo." I, sort of when I turn off my DJ thing, I just like the music. I go and dance it. I don't think, oh, this is D'Arienzo, I should dance it this way. Of course, some of them but so yeah. So certainly, when listening to other people, I try to enjoy it. I don't try to evaluate it. Um, but actually, I'm not sure if you asked me this as well. But there's a few people, especially in local milongas and even international milongas, that come and tell me, as organizers, "Oh, what do you think the DJ is like?" And my answer is always a stock answer, is like, look at the dance floor. How many people are dancing? If this DJ is a DJ that is able to put 75% of people on most tandas, it's a very good DJ, okay? Because it means that people are dancing 3 out of 4 tandas, right? Okay, some people will be dancing every tanda, some people will be dancing 2 out of 4, but basically this DJ is populating the dance floor. But if you think that this DJ is not putting half of the people, every 3 tandas, it's then yeah, that's the answer given for you. It's not a good DJ. Yeah.
So what happens when you don't like the DJ and you're still dancing there? Are you able to switch off your
When I
thoughts? Like,
don't like the DJ,
yes.
well, when I don't like the DJ, there's a bar, which is a very good place to socialize and to talk to people. There is the outdoor. When I don't like it, I just I don't dance. I just chat, or I leave, and I go. And if I'm in a place like, I don't know, that city that is interesting, if I don't click on with the DJ, and it's nothing against the DJ, I just leave and go and sightsee.
But you just said that you are able to switch off all these preferences you have
Oh,
as a DJ,
yeah, I'm able to
but
switch off.
only if they're good enough. Or
Not preferences. I'm able to
okay,
switch off about my DJing brain, about my sort of, oh, what's this orchestra,
okay, okay.
but but if I don't like it, you know, I'm not gonna dance it.
No, no, no.
And sometimes I like it, I'm not dancing, and that's maybe because, I don't know, my feet are hurting, or sort of, I can't find the right person. So it doesn't mean that if I'm not dancing, I'm not enjoying it. Um, Sometimes I'm dancing and I'm enjoying. I'm not dancing and I'm enjoying it. Some people say, "Oh, like one of my favorite orchestras is Troilo. It's my favorite orchestra, actually." And some people say, like, "Oh, I always have to dance my favorite orchestra." And actually, when Troilo comes on, I look at people that I want to dance with, that I know that I'll enjoy dancing Troilo with, And if I can't find anyone, I'll just sit on the chair and relax and enjoy the music without dancing. I don't need to dance it to enjoy it. Um, so so sometimes I'm not dancing and I'm still enjoying it. But if I'm not enjoying it, I'll just leave. Honestly, it's better for everyone, really.
Okay. Is there? Yeah.
The
Sorry.
energy for the next milonga.
Sorry.
Keep the energy for the next milonga.
Yes. 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 Does that so that's not does that also happen on events that you don't like the music, like encuentros, marathons?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it happens everywhere, really.
Yeah, it's not like that. It's a higher level necessarily of music than in the UK, for example, in normal milongas.
No, I think this happens very regularly and in some very good events, but sometimes very good DJs. Sometimes people have bad days, you know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Not nothing personal. It's just you're there to enjoy yourself. If you're not enjoying, just find something else.
But isn't that like the curse of the DJ? Like you know so much about the music, or the curse of maybe the advanced dancer as well. Like you've been dancing so long, like there's so many factors that need to be right for you to enjoy
Well,
a salon.
I well, having said that, I rarely leave milongas, so I generally like music that is played. Um, I try not to sort of think too much about it because I will find faults if I think about it, and I try not to, and I don't. And sometimes people around me, they're not DJs, they're much more critical about the DJing than I am.
Ah,
Because I you know, but no, I mean generally the DJing is very good in encuentros and marathons. Generally,
okay.
I think it's also important, and I was discussing this with I don't know if you know Anthony Cronin, who
Yes.
yeah. So I was discussing this that a lot of organizers invite good DJs, but they don't put them in the right positions. Okay, there are some DJs that are very good in the afternoon, but not very good at night. There's some DJs that are good as you know party, after party milongas. Some DJs are terrible at it. And actually, I remember talking to him and saying that some organizers tend to put the left side glove on the right hand because it's just not making use of the best qualities of a DJ. And I think it's a shame sometimes. It's a shame sometimes see someone that would really shine on an opening milonga on a Friday afternoon, okay, being put on the Friday night, which is like it requires a completely different set of DJ. Friday afternoon requires a complete different DJ than a Saturday night. Because we know at Saturday night a lot of people are dancing on Saturday afternoon. They don't go to the milonga on Saturday night, um, and a lot of people have the ones that dance on the Saturday afternoon are tired on Saturday night. So on Saturday night, especially in Encuentro, you need a DJ that is going to put lots of energy in it, because otherwise people get bored, they go home. But not too much energy that people get so tired that they go home.
Yeah.
But on a Friday afternoon, it's a complete right. Friday afternoon, you want a DJ that will put sort of, let's say, simpler music, right? You're arriving, you've just flown, you've still got your suitcases, you haven't checked in because it's 3 o'clock and the check-in is only at 3, but the milonga started at 3 or at 2, and you're stressed, and it's going to be really much easier to dance. I don't know, some Rodriguez than it will be to dance some late Troilo. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you have to be mindful of who when you're DJing and what circumstances you're DJing. You have to make it easy for the dancers. And he also comes with what I think one of the main things of the DJs need to do is to play for the dancers, to be altruistic. Um, so it's really, this is what you're being paid for, okay? It's not to listen to your sort of tango bedroom porn music. It's actually to sort of to go and give the music what the dancers do. And on a Friday afternoon, giving them very highly complex music, it may not be the best. It may be, yeah, depends. But that's what you have to do. You have to look at who's dancing and see what they want. And sometimes if I'm, if I'm invited to do a Friday afternoon and I really wanted to put like, I don't know, some late Troilo and Pugliese and, sort of other, loud and, I may need to tone down. I may need to sort of rework my plan of what I'm doing and actually give people a little bit more of what I want and maybe put music that I'm not so keen so much. But you know what? It's not to do what I'm keen with, it's to do what people are keen with, dancing, filling the dance floor.
Would you say this is common knowledge?
Right.
Or do you see a lot of these things that you talk about go wrong?
Well, again, I'll take my DJ hat on off when I go into a milonga, but I can see people playing the wrong music as far as I would be concerned. Okay, this would be music that I wouldn't be playing. But then again, you know, as long as they put people dancing, that's important. It's not what I like, it's how many people you put on the dance floor.
But so if you are on a Friday afternoon and someone plays some really difficult music and people still dance, are they doing their job
It
well?
depends. It really depends, and this is what I'm trying to say. It really depends who your audience is. There are some events like invitation only, in which the organizers will really invite people that like that kind of music.
Okay.
And so it may be completely acceptable to put that sort of music on a Friday afternoon, but there will be some events where it will be completely unacceptable, right? So it's about you as a DJ that is being paid money to play, is being paid money on your trip, is being paid accommodation. You need to know this. You need to know how to work that out. It's expected. I would expect that from
Yes.
who.
Yeah.
It's not like a local DJ that I'm, saying, oh yeah, come around. Oh, can you do a discount? Like we'll. It's not the same thing, right? This is a position of responsibility, and you basically need to do your best.
Yes. Do you have any, like, if you're talking about an encuentro, do you have any so you have these afternoons and nights, so do you have a preference for one, like?
Saturday afternoon is always great because it's the easiest one. Um, they all have different characteristics. So for Saturday nights, it's quite difficult because you usually have less people coming in. People are tired, so that's quite a difficult one to keep on going until the end, especially if the music keeps going until very late. Um, Fridays can sometimes be a bit tricky just because people are arriving. A lot of people are arriving. They're tired. They're sort of, again, you maybe won't be able to develop as much the music. The Sunday afternoon or the after parties are they're interesting for me. Yeah, especially the Sunday afternoons when everyone has been dancing together for the whole weekend. You've developed some new dancing partners. You've developed a relationship with partners that you've been dancing with for a long time, and then so you can really explore. And I think what you can do in certain events is that you can also increase more the amplitude of your DJing, of your music. You can put higher tempo and followed by a high complexity music closer together than you would, for example, on an earlier milonga, because people are so sort of intertwined. They've grown together. They've sort of um, they're more in phase with each other, that you can be a little bit more daring on what you do. But at the same time, you will have a milonga where some people arrive with their suitcases, and they leave early, and so it's challenging the Sunday, the last milonga. And the after party, I think it's after parties are lately becoming just another milonga, and for me it's a bit of a shame because the after party should really be a party, shouldn't be an extra milonga. So yeah, I'm seeing this, that more and more the after party is becoming just one more milonga and not like a party. But hey ho.
So what would a party look like for you on a Saturday evening, an after
Well,
party?
I think the cortinas need to be really sort of party. Like, you can't have a sort of, I don't know, sad cortina on a party. And the music also needs to be a little bit more sort of, high energy. You don't want
Okay.
to go to a party and have, sort of very painful, um, lyrical, uh, you know, minor based music, minor as in sort of the half tone. Um, so you really want to sort of give it a good blast, like let's go for it. Let's have a party. Big cortinas, smile on everyone's face. Um, yeah.
So one last question, I think. It's a bit of a broad question, and we can kind of make the circle complete of everything we talked about. So, what does tango mean to your life? You seem to be quite active with it, but you have a very uh, responsible full-time job in a hospital. What?
No, I think tango um has had different roles in my life. When I started, I got very addicted to it. I got very hooked to it. At some point, I let tango control my life, my professional and uh, life choices were um, dictated by tango, and I learned how to counteract that. So I, although I'm heavily involved with tango, tango is not my priority. Tango is what gives it's the part of my life that I can enjoy and relax. But it needs to be, well, for me, as I say, I've got a responsible um, profession. It needs to be very well tuned with what my life is on a day-to-day basis. So I may not be able to go to uh, an encuentro or a marathon for 3 or 4 months in a row, and I'm fine with that. I'm fine with that. But then I know that, for example, for my schedule next year, there'll be in April, I'm going to be DJing 4 weekends in a row,
Wow.
and already regretted that myself. But regretted as in I want to DJ in all of them, but yeah, maybe I should have thought a little bit clearer about that.
Is that also local events, or is it just international weekends?
It's a mix, yeah, it's a mix.
Okay, so it's not like a full weekends, 4 full weekends, like four encuentros or something.
More, yeah, more than I should really.
Okay.
Yeah, but anyway, so in a way, tango is it's very important. It's the way how I sort of get the pleasure of listening to the music and DJing as well, and also not forgetting that I met my wife in tango, so it gave me a lot of tango.
Yes, and then I think it's also always present in a way. If your wife is also a tango dancer, there's even more priority on spending time in tango. Or maybe there isn't. It might also be that you get so tired of it together that you consciously avoid it. I don't know. All scenarios are possible, but yes,
Depends on person to person, isn't it?
yes. But for you,
Oh, definitely. It's a time that we both enjoy. Yeah, yeah.
and do you feel like you have matured further into tango in a way the last few years, or is it just more or less stable? Is it the same for
Oh,
you in your life?
I think you're always growing up. Um, you know, the more you experience, the more you learn, and it's how you use that really determines it. Some people have new experiences and they just don't add them to their sort of life experience. They just the experiences sort of come and go. So it's a bit of a difficult one to answer because it's what each person does it differently.
But do
No, I'm
you
always learning. I'm always
okay?
evolving.
Do you experience lows as well, or lack of motivation?
Of course, everyone does, isn't it? Everyone does, and especially when um you know, it's not just, well, for me, tango's life is not just tango. So, you know, sometimes things outside tango can influence it. Yeah.
Yes.
Positively and negatively.
Yes. Yes. But you does that mean your interest in dancing tango is less stable, or is it also just absent sometimes that you really don't feel like, or
I think one of the things that I learned was how to live live nicely without, if I don't have tango. And I'm quite happy that I learned to do that um, well before COVID, because I know quite a lot of people that were very tango sort of, you know, very hooked on going to places in tango. They suffered a lot with the pandemic because everything got cancelled. And actually, of course, I did suffer in the pandemic in terms of, you know, there were people that I saw regularly that I didn't see for over a year and a half. There were, you know, I didn't dance in the pandemic. I actually didn't listen to that much music during the pandemic, much tango music. um there was a conscious decision, because in the beginning I was listening and I was almost like suffering because I didn't go to milongas. So I just turned off, really, for a
okay?
year of tango. I really did.
Yes.
um I also stopped going to Facebook and posting on Facebook, but going to Facebook because I think in the pandemic it became quite toxic. So and Facebook is one of those things that where I know that events are happening or I know about tango. So I really sort of um turned off. And also professionally it was quite an intense year and a half for me, being in the medical profession. So it sort of helped, and it helped me focus on the job that we had at hand. And as we all know, it was quite stressful year, even for a person who operates in eyes. I was asked to go to ITU, so
uh,
I was actually working in ITU alongside ITU doctors and nurses, learning a new way of doing medicine. Learned a lot. Yeah, so I'm in a way I'm glad that I can control my tango hunger. And I would tell most, you know, everyone to learn how to do it, because I think it's really important that you don't let tango boss your life. You boss tango.
yes. Yes. Well, that's a really nice conclusion for today. I've uh, I've learned the same myself over the years, and especially the last 4 or 5 years, just uh, be careful of the balance. That's
Yeah,
just extremely important. And I still think there's people who do not really look at their balance, and they're still having a great time. So maybe it's also just a personal preference that we
exactly.
just like
Personal
doing other things as well, right? And
personal
some other people just like focusing on this one thing, and they're perfectly happy doing that. So
I think the balance that you want to have a good balance, and the balance is different for different people. It's just,
yes.
yeah.
Yes. Well, Ricardo, thank you for today. It's
So thank you
been
very much.
a
Thank you.
very interesting interview, and I was able to highlight some other things than usual. And that's also what I'm looking for in my interviews. I try to not be let all these interviews sound like the same thing. So it's yeah, I had a really good time, and thank you for your presence.
Thank you very much for inviting, Lucas. Thank you.
Hope to see you again at some point. It's been
Yeah,
six
see you soon.
years.
See you soon, man.
Yes.
Okay. Cheers. Bye bye.